We have some breaking news to get to here on Golden State Warriors today. It is day 2 of NBA free agency, and Bob Meyers, he got on the phone from Cabo. A lot of people thought that he was in hibernation. He has brought back an instrumental figure for the Warriors championship team from this past year. Kevon Looney is not leaving like Gary Payton II, as well as Otto Porter Jr. He is re-signing with Golden State on a 3-year, $25.5 million deal. And the Warriors, in turn, bring back a center who's been a focal point with what the Warriors have wanted to do in adding to their culture. An overall play style, offensively and defensively, the ultimate glue guy returning to the Warriors. And by the way, that joke for Bob Meyers, a little bit of a joke, because on our main Chat Sports YouTube channel, people were saying, where is Bob Meyers? Well, because of Bob Meyers, the Warriors won yet another championship this past year, and now they're bringing back another critical component to that championship run in Kevon Looney. And honestly, on the open market, he could have received a contract worth $10 to $11 million per year. Instead, he gets a little bit less than that, takes a little bit of a hometown discount, and I really do like the deal for a guy who is just great at rebounding the basketball, making winning plays, always seems to be in the right position at the right time, and has familiarity with this organization as well as this culture. 3 championships since being a diamond in the rough prospect that was discovered by Golden State. He now goes back to the Warriors, a team that he's had a lot of success with, and the Warriors will continue to have a lot of success with Kevon Looney at the helm. So, to show love to Kevon Looney, if you're excited that the Loon Man is back, I want to hear from everybody in the comment section right now. Spam LOON in the comment section if you're excited about Looney returning. Now, throughout his career, he has done a great job of having instincts rebounding the basketball. He's always there for putbacks. He can operate a little two-man game, dash to the cup off the pick and roll a little bit. He's not a shooter by any means, which is really the modern-day value for bigs, but he has been one of the lone exceptions out there. A big who can defend on switches. He can defend guys along the three-point arc on some of those switches, and he can fulfill a bunch of roles as a starter, as a backup. Obviously, his future going to be tied to the health of James Wiseman, a former number 2 overall pick who's only played a handful of games in 2 years, missed his entire sophomore campaign because of that lingering knee issue. Is he going to be the starter, or is Kevon Looney going to be the starter? Either way, by bringing back Looney on an affordable price tag, it gives you insurance in that front court. Gonna toss it over to Will Scott. Your thoughts about the Warriors bringing back Kevon Looney?
Well, I think it was really important. And after losing Gary Payton II and after losing Otto Porter Jr., they had to bring back Looney. There was no other choice. We expected this move to happen. Now it's official, and we knew it was going to happen. We just didn't know kind of the details of the contract. So it's 3 years, $25.5. So they basically get him for around $8 million per year, which when you consider the fact that he started 80 games last season, that is really, really good value for a player that's your starter down low at the center position. So I think it's a really good move. He's a rebounding machine. I think it was important for Bob Meyers and company to bring this guy back in order to continue to, put this championship run together again next year. Very important to do it, and they did. I love this move.
And we're reacting to this live. This news was just broken minutes ago, and at the end of the day, this is why you subscribe to Golden State Warriors today on an unbelievable journey and pace right now. Just look at the video views. It's been straight up crazy, but with us reacting to this live, and by the way, subscribe by hitting that red sub button or youtube.com/WarriorsTV. That'll take you to the promised land. This coming from Mark Stein. Some rival teams were projecting Kevon Looney to return to the Warriors at 3 years, 30, or even maybe 4 for 40. For Golden State to retain him at $8+ million annually is another win for the reigning champs. And that's why I am defending Bob Meyers. Look, you get rid and you lose Gary Payton II as well as Otto Porter Jr. That's okay if you re-sign Kevon Looney, and now you have the money that you could have paid to GP2. You're going to miss him. Great wing defender. Otto Porter Jr., really good rotational piece, but you have to factor in that Andrew Wiggins going into the final year of his contract. He's due for a payday. Do you want to see him back? You need the money allocated in order to do that. Do you want to see Jordan Poole, one of the best emerging bucket getters in the NBA, also get paid? His deal could be between $20, $25, even $30 million. So you have to start planning for the future. This is what good businesses do. This is why the Warriors, with Joe Lacob at the top, Bob Bob Meyers at the front office, Steve Kerr at the head coaching spot, are one of the most well-run organizations, and that's why they have 4 championships over the last 8 years and 6 NBA Finals appearances over the last 8 years. They make smart, business-savvy decisions, and sometimes they make difficult decisions like having to move on and not pay players like GP2 as well as Otto Porter Jr. So with that, I ask you this. Grade the move. Looney going back to the Warriors. A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know in the comment section right now. As we've talked about, the consistent theme with this contract for Looney, it's the value of it. $8+ million for a guy on the open market who probably would have had 10, $11 million potentially for more years as well as more money. You let me know in the comment section right now. And really, this is all that the Warriors have done up to this point. Other than losing a couple of guys, retaining Kevon Looney is the big move that they made in free agency. Could they go and make another move on the peripheries of this roster? Potentially. But going back to my original point, and here's that tweet from Mark Stein. People are like, oh my gosh, we lose GP2. We lose Otto Porter Jr. Jonathan Kuminga was picked number 7 last year. Moses Moody at number 14. These young players are going to have more of a role, and you want them having more of a role. And by clearing up some roster spaces, they're able to fulfill those roles and get more playing time, which is really important for their development.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And, maybe that's why you let GP2 and Otto Porter Jr. walk, because you do feel good about some of those young guys.
No doubt.
But I don't think that Looney would have been as easily replaced if you were to lose Looney. I think that when you're looking at the Warriors' current roster right now, I think you feel decent about replacing the production of Gary Payton II and Otto Porter Jr. I don't know if they would have felt the same way about Looney. That's why it was really important to bring this guy back. And Mark Stein said it. A lot of teams thought he was going to get $10 million per year. You get him on that team-friendly deal. You keep him in the Bay. It's a great move for both Looney, I think, and Golden State.
Yeah, and with what Looney has been able to do throughout his career, he has never had the sexiest game. He has never put up crazy numbers, but this is a championship asset that you want to build your roster with and around. And for him, again, that James Wiseman security policy is really important. Wiseman has all the potential in the world to live up to the expectations of being that number 2 pick. It's the health concerns that are massive. But the Warriors, without him, still able to win an NBA championship. So it's Looney back to the Dubs, 3 years, 25 and a half, $8+ million per year. They do lose Gary Payton II, signed a 3-year, $28 million deal. That's worth more than $9 million on an average annual value basis. And Portland, they've done a great job this offseason bringing in Jeremy Grant, Gary Payton II, 2 really good wing defenders around Damian Lillard, who's not necessarily a good defensive player by any means. And then Otto Porter Jr., the other player exiting the reigning NBA champions. Obviously, you'd like to see him come back. But for those of you ripping Bob Meyers, can you give him credit for fulfilling a roster spot for Gary Payton II and having him be an integral figure for the Warriors last year? How about signing Otto Porter Jr. to the vet min last year? A guy who started a couple of games in the NBA Finals for Kevon Looney in the place of him when Steve Kerr wanted to go smaller against the agile and athletic lineup for the Boston Celtics. So, a couple of things can be true at the same time. Do you want to bring back Otto Porter Jr.? And was it important to bring back the wing defense of Gary Payton II? Yeah, maybe, but you know who can also defend on the wing? Jonathan Kuminga. You know who has defensive potential? That's Moses Moody. And in order for those guys to get more tick, to get more burn and more playing time, you need to clear up some opportunities for them to grace the floor a little bit more. So at the end of the day, I like what the Warriors have done. Cut them some slack. Because of Bob Meyers, because of this selfish culture that the Warriors have been able to build over time, they just won their 4th championship in 8 years. This is a dynastic run, one of the best runs that we've ever seen in the history of the NBA, and I think it's going to continue with this team still in a position to compete for championships over the next couple of years. If you love the NBA, then make sure you subscribe to Warriors Today if you love Dub Nation, but also if you love the NBA as a whole, make sure you subscribe to our main Chat Sports YouTube channel. You see the link down below. It's youtube.com/chatsportstv. Just annihilate that red subscribe button right now. So it's Looney going back to the Dubs, 3 years, $25.5 million. Warrior fans, let me know what you're thinking about this move in the comment section right now. I certainly want to hear from you. this video certainly going to enter the vortex. There's no question about that. Gary Payton II leaves the Warriors, 3 years, $28 million, and then it's Otto Porter Jr. signing that 2-year deal with the Toronto Raptors. That is everything that has happened with the reigning NBA champions. Whatever moves are made, if there's a news item, rumors that we need to hit, we will have you covered right here on Golden State Warriors Today and on our main Chat Sports YouTube channel. So, our final question of the show and of this segment: grade the Warriors' move so far. Scale it for me from 1 to 100. You let me know in the comment section right now. More news coming through on the Golden State Warriors front. Yes, they've lost Otto Porter Jr., Gary Payton II. We also have to throw Juan Toscano-Anderson in there as well, as he signed a deal with the Los Angeles Lakers. They did retain Kevon Looney. They are also losing Nemanja Bjelica, another important piece on this bench unit. This coming from Mark Stein, the flip side of the Golden State equation. They've lost GP2, Otto Porter Jr., Nemanja Bjelica. Bjelica has opted to play in the EuroLeague and Turkey. And I do want to pass along this information from Anthony Slater that pertains to Bjelica and him going to the EuroLeague. So he said this on Twitter: the Warriors were interested in bringing Bjelica back on the veteran minimum, but they were informed today that he has opted to leave the NBA entirely for a preferred situation on one of his former teams. So that's another rotation player lost. So Bjelica also leaving the Warriors. He gets a ring in the playoffs. He didn't get a lot of playing time, but this is yet another roster spot that the Warriors will have to fulfill on this bench mob unit.